Ladies and gentlemen, young and old, dreamers and doers, and do listen closely. You are not an accident. You are not a mistake. You were not put on this earth just to wake up, work, pay bills, and die. No, you were born with purpose. You were born with power. You were born to create, to build, to inspire, to lead. But somewhere along the way, somebody told you to settle. They said, get a safe job. Follow the rules. Don't rock the boat. And little by little, you started believing that life is just about surviving, not thriving. Let me tell you something, bills will always be there. But your dreams, your passion, your legacy, those can't wait. Your value was never meant to be measured in digits on a paycheck, in the balance of a bank account, or in the approval of a boss who only sees you as labor. The world has conditioned us to believe that our worth is tied to our income, that the higher the salary, the more important the person, but that's a lie. A dangerous, soul-crushing lie. You are not a transaction. You are not an employee ID number. You are not a line item on a corporate budget. You are a force of creativity, passion, and purpose that no dollar amount could ever define. Think about it when you leave this earth. No one will stand at your funeral and say, he made a great salary. No one will etch into your tombstone, she never missed a bill payment. That's not what you'll be remembered for. People will remember how you made them feel. They'll remember the ideas you brought to life, the lives you changed, the love you gave, the battles you fought. They'll remember your laughter, your courage, your stubborn refusal to settle for less than you deserved. That's your real value. Yet every day the system tries to shrink you into a box labeled worker. It tells you to clock in, keep your head down, and be grateful for whatever scraps fall from the table. It conditions you to believe that financial survival is the highest form of success. But deep down, you know the truth. You were made for more. You were made to build, to innovate, to inspire. You were made to leave a mark on this world that can't be erased. So why do we keep reducing ourselves to numbers? Because fear keeps us there. Fear tells us that without the safety of a steady paycheck, we're nothing. Fear convinces us that taking a risk on our dreams is reckless, that we should just be content with surviving instead of demanding to thrive. But let me ask you this. If you were truly just here to pay bills, then why do you feel that restless hunger for something more? Why does your soul ache when you see others living boldly while you're stuck in the grind? That ache is your purpose calling you. That hunger is proof that you're not meant to be caged. The most powerful people in history weren't rich because of their salaries, they were rich because of their impact. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't change the world with a paycheck. Marie Curie didn't discover radium because she was chasing a bonus. They did it because they understood their value was beyond money. They knew their worth wasn't in what they earned, but in what they gave. So stop letting a paycheck define you. Stop letting a job title tell you who you are. You are not your W-2. You are not your credit score. You are a living, breathing, unstoppable force of potential. And the moment you start acting like it, the world will have no choice but to bend to your vision. Money is a tool, not a destination. Paychecks are temporary, but legacy, that lasts forever. Fear lives in the shadows of your potential, lurking just beyond the edges of your comfort zone, feeding you lies disguised as logic. It tells you that stability is safety, that predictable misery is better than uncertain glory, that it's better to stay small than to risk failing big. But here's the truth fear doesn't want you to know. Every major breakthrough in human history happened because someone refused to listen to that voice. Every innovation, every movement, every empire built or destroyed happened because someone decided their dreams were louder than their doubts. Fear doesn't show up as some monstrous villain. It comes dressed in reasonable concerns. Wait until you have more savings, it whispers. What if you embarrass yourself, it cautions. People will laugh at you, it warns, and the most dangerous lie of all, you're not ready yet. The reality is you'll never feel ready. There will never be a perfect moment when all the stars align and every possible risk is accounted for. The warriors, the creators, the legends, they all move forward while trembling. The difference wasn't absence of fear, but the presence of something stronger. Consider this: fear is actually a compass pointing toward what matters most. That tightness in your chest when you imagine quitting your job to pursue your passion. That's not a warning, that's confirmation you're on the right track. The nausea when you think about putting your art into the world. That's not a sign to stop, that's proof you're creating something real. The greatest opportunities in life always come disguised as terrifying risks. The career-changing idea, the life-altering relationship, the destiny-shifting decision, they all require you to step directly into what scares you most. Society has weaponized fear to keep people compliant. They've turned it into a cultural operating system where playing it safe is praised as being responsible while chasing dreams is dismissed as being unrealistic. But look around. The safe route isn't actually safe. Jobs disappear overnight. Industries collapse. Pensions vanish. The only true security comes from developing the courage to bet on yourself again and again. Every time you face fear and move forward anyway, you're not just achieving a goal. You're rewiring your nervous system to see yourself as someone who overcomes rather than someone who retreats. The most dangerous people in the world aren't the fearless. They're those who've learned to use fear as fuel. That racing heart isn't panic. It's your body preparing for battle. Those sweaty palms aren't weakness, they're your physiology getting ready to perform. The ancients knew the secret. Fear and excitement are the same energy, just interpreted differently. Olympic athletes, special forces soldiers, groundbreaking artists, they've all learned to relabel fear as focus, as intensity, as the price of admission to extraordinary performance. What if everything you're afraid of is actually the doorway to everything you want? The terrifying conversation could lead to the relationship you need. The risky career move could unlock the impact you're meant to have. The vulnerable creative act could inspire someone waiting for your courage to give them permission for their own. Your fear isn't a wall, it's a toll booth. The cost of your dreams is paid in moments of discomfort. And every time you pay, you're buying back pieces of your destiny that you've been renting out to doubt. The world's most successful people aren't those who eliminated fear. They're the ones who made peace with its constant presence. They understand that fear means you're growing, that discomfort means you're evolving, that uncertainty means you're playing a meaningful game. The alternative isn't safety, it's stagnation. A life spent avoiding fear is a life spent avoiding everything that makes being alive worthwhile. The magic happens in that space between I can't and I did. In that moment when your knees are shaking but you step forward anyway. When every logical argument says turn back but your soul says go. This is why they try to scare you young. Why schools condition obedience, why media amplifies worst-case scenarios, why culture rewards conformity. They know what happens when people stop being afraid. Empires fall. Industries transform. Underdogs become champions. The entire system is designed to make you doubt your own power because once you realize fear is paper tiger, there's no limit to what you can achieve. Every time you've ever accomplished anything meaningful in your life, you did it by quieting fear, not by waiting for it to disappear. That pattern will hold true for everything you ever do worth doing. Right now, as you read this, fear is trying to convince you these words don't apply to you, that your situation is different, that your responsibilities make courage a luxury you can't afford. That's the oldest trick in fear's playbook, to make you believe you're the exception to your own potential. But history is written by those who refuse that lie, who understood that on the other side of fear is a version of yourself you can't even imagine yet. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek, and the only thing standing between you and everything you want is the willingness to face what scares you and move forward anyway. The world is starving for what only you can bring. Not a generic version of talent, not some mass-produced skill set, but the raw, unfiltered essence of your unique perspective. There's a reason your fingerprints don't match anyone else's in history, because the imprint you're meant to leave can't be duplicated. That idea haunting your thoughts at 3 a.m., that project you keep circling back to when no one's watching, that unconventional approach everyone says won't work, those aren't random impulses, they're divine assignments coded specifically for your hands to deliver. Consider the absurdity of believing 7 billion people walked the earth before you, and not one was equipped to solve the problem burning in your gut. The math doesn't add up. The technology you're meant to develop, the book you're meant to write, the movement you're meant to lead, these aren't accidents of interest. They're evidence of a world whispering its needs to the exact person wired to answer them. History shows us this truth repeatedly. When the world needed a Moses showed up. When humanity required a Curie appeared. The universe doesn't make mistakes in its distribution of purpose. People make mistakes in ignoring their assignments. Your gift isn't some polished, perfect offering waiting for the right moment to emerge fully formed. It's a raw, messy, inconvenient truth that disrupts your comfort and demands to be expressed. That frustration you feel with how things are done. That's your gift knocking. That anger about systemic failures. That's your gift stirring. That quiet knowing that you see solutions where others see problems. That's your gift announcing itself. The world doesn't need more lukewarm imitations. It needs your particular brand of unreasonable commitment to what matters. Look at any field that's ever shifted paradigms: music, science, business, activism. The breakthroughs never came from people doing acceptable work within established norms. They came from those who honored their peculiar obsessions, who leaned into their so-called weaknesses until those became their greatest strengths. Your too muchness isn't a flaw, it's the exact calibration required to impact your particular corner of the universe. The parts of yourself you've been taught to downplay, to hide, to apologize for, those are likely ground zero of your greatest contributions. Here's a cost to withholding your gift, and it compounds daily. Every time you silence that inner voice to fit in, every time you choose comfort over calling, every time you prioritize approval over authenticity, the world loses something only you could have offered. Not in some dramatic, catastrophic way, but in 10,000 tiny moments of absence, the encouragement you didn't give, the innovation you didn't share, the truth you didn't speak. The alternative isn't arrogance, it's responsibility, recognizing that your uniqueness isn't for hoarding, but for distributing. This isn't about ego or claiming superiority, it's about acknowledging that in the vast interconnected web of humanity, your particular thread has a specific function that no other thread can replicate. When you refuse to shine, you don't just dim yourself. You darken the entire tapestry. The people who need your voice won't find it elsewhere. The solutions wired into your brain won't spontaneously emerge from someone else. The love you're capable of giving won't be replicated by another. This is the weight and wonder of your existence. You are simultaneously irreplaceable and desperately needed. The resistance you feel isn't proof you're on the wrong path. It's confirmation you're on the right one. If your gift were easy to deliver, it wouldn't be yours alone to give. The friction, the obstacles, the setbacks, these aren't stop signs, but training grounds preparing you for the scale of impact you're destined for. Every great contribution in history faced initial resistance because anything truly new must first be rejected before it can be revered. Your gift will travel the same path, first ignored, then ridiculed, then fought, then celebrated. Your job isn't to control the timeline, but to remain faithful to the work. Time operates differently when you're aligned with your purpose. Hours dissolve when you're immersed in your craft. Years accelerate when you're building something meaningful. This is why so many people reach the end with regret. They spent their days counting hours rather than making hours count. Your gift isn't some distant destination. It's the daily practice of showing up as yourself in a world begging for authenticity. The world doesn't need more carbon copies. It needs originals willing to stand in their truth, even when every system incentivizes conformity. Right now, someone needs exactly what you carry. Not a more polished version, not a future iteration, but the imperfect offering you can deliver today. That email you've been putting off, that prototype gathering dust, that conversation you've been avoiding. These aren't random tasks, but potential portals to impact. The world's most powerful forces often look insignificant at first. A seed, a spark, a single voice in the darkness. Your contribution operates by the same principle. What seems small today becomes seismic through consistent expression. The only true failure isn't falling short. It's refusing to start because you've mistaken your gift as optional when in reality, it's the entire point of your existence. Every scar on your journey is a badge of honor the universe gives only to those brave enough to play the long game. That rejection letter collecting dust in your drawer? That's not proof of failure, it's evidence of participation in the arena. The bankruptcy that nearly broke you? Not a permanent stain, but a temporary lesson etched into your comeback story. The betrayal that left you questioning humanity? That wasn't the end of your trust, but the beginning of your discernment. Struggle isn't what happens to you. It's what happens for you, carving out the hollow spaces in your character that will later hold the weight of your victories. Look at any oak tree worth admiring and you'll find rings marking droughts survived, storms weathered, winters endured. That's not damage, that's the record of a life well fought. Your struggles operate the same way. What feels like breaking is actually building. What appears as stumbling is actually strengthening. The pressure that seems designed to crush you is actually compacting you into a denser, more formidable version of yourself. Nature's greatest law is this: no growth without resistance, no strength without struggle, no wisdom without wounds. The most dangerous lie we believe is that successful people had easier paths. Dig deeper and you'll find their roads were littered with more wrecks than yours. They just refused to accept those wrecks as final destinations. Every overnight success you admire spent years in the dark, building in obscurity while others question their sanity. What separates those who make it from those who don't isn't the absence of struggle, but their relationship to it. They stopped asking, why me? And started asking, what's this preparing me for? They understood that struggle is the universe's most effective personal trainer. It won't give you more than you can handle, but it will push you right to the edge of what you think you can bear. There's an alchemy to struggle that can't be replicated in comfort. The same way fire purifies gold and pressure creates diamonds, your battles are refining you for a purpose you can't yet see. That job loss wasn't a derailment, but a redirection. That heartbreak wasn't abandonment, but an invitation to self-love. That financial drought wasn't punishment, but preparation for stewardship of greater resources. The pattern holds throughout history. What looks like the end is often the necessary prelude to a beginning too magnificent for your current imagination. Struggle teaches what no textbook ever could. It schools you in resilience no motivational speech can impart. Those sleepless nights when you doubted everything, that was your PhD in perseverance. Those days when you had to choose between pride and progress, that was your masterclass in humility. Every time you got knocked down and chose to get up anyway, you weren't just standing, you were leveling up in the unseen curriculum that separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. The irony is that we spend our lives running from what ultimately makes us. We avoid discomfort like it's the enemy, when it's actually the architect of our best selves. The muscle only grows through resistance. The sailor only learns through rough seas. The leader only emerges through crisis. Your current struggle isn't blocking your path, it is the path. Every great story requires an antagonist, and yours is no different. The obstacles aren't random. They're custom designed to reveal strengths you didn't know you possessed, to forge alliances you wouldn't have otherwise made, to direct you toward purposes you might have missed on an easier road. This is why we must reframe our relationship with struggle. Not as something to endure until it's over, but as something to engage with because it's essential. The parent working 3 jobs isn't just surviving, they're writing a legacy their children will reference for generations. The entrepreneur facing constant rejection isn't failing, they're gathering data for their eventual domination. The artist creating an obscurity isn't wasting time, they're assembling the body of work that will later define a movement. Struggle isn't the interruption of your story, it's the crucible where your story gains its meaning. There will come a day when you'll trace every success back to a struggle that made it possible. That presentation you nail will owe its confidence to all the ones you bombed. That business deal you closed will stand on the foundation of all the ones that fell through. The wisdom people admire in you will be distilled from experiences you once cursed. This is the great paradox. What weakens you in the moment ultimately becomes the source of your greatest strength. The setbacks aren't destroying your dream. They're installing the upgrades required to sustain it. No one gets to skip the struggle. We only get to choose what we struggle for. You can struggle and regret, wondering what might have been if you'd taken that chance. Or you can struggle in pursuit, knowing every ounce of effort is writing a story worth telling. The weight is the same. The meaning is what changes. Your current battles aren't evidence that you're off course. They're proof you're exactly where you need to be, being shaped for what's coming. The temporary discomfort is the price of admission to a future where, looking back, you'll understand why every step, even the painful ones, was necessary. Time is the great equalizer. The one currency distributed perfectly evenly to every human being on the planet, where the billionaire and the beggar both receive the same 24 fresh hours each morning. Yet how we choose to spend these irreplaceable units of existence determines the entire trajectory of our lives. Most people trade time like counterfeit money, spending it recklessly on distractions that leave them bankrupt of meaning, then wondering where the years disappeared. They mortgage their mornings to snooze buttons, their evenings to mindless scrolling, their weekends to recovery from the soul-sucking grind they've accepted as normal. This isn't living, this is slow-motion suicide of potential, where days blend into weeks, blend into years, until one day you wake up and the dreams you postponed have expired. The modern world has perfected the art of time theft, creating an entire economy designed to hijack your attention and auction it off to the highest corporate bidder. Social media isn't free, you pay with minutes of your life you'll never recover. Endless meetings aren't just boring, they're burglaries of your most precious resource. The 9-to-5 hamster wheel isn't stability, it's systemic time laundering that converts your vitality into shareholder value. The harsh truth: no one will protect your time for you. The world will always demand more hours, more attention, more compliance, unless you build fortress walls around what matters. We've been brainwashed into believing busyness equals productivity, that packed schedules signal importance, that exhaustion is a badge of honor. This is the great lie of our age. Real wealth isn't measured in bank accounts, but in blank spaces on your calendar. Those sacred hours where you're not reacting to the world, but creating it. The most powerful people throughout history didn't accomplish more by doing more. They did less, but with ruthless focus on what moved the needle. They understood that time management is a myth. You can't manage time, only your choices within it. Every yes to something unimportant is a no to something essential. And life is the sum total of these daily trade-offs. Consider the absurdity of spending 40 hours a week doing work you tolerate to buy things you don't need to impress people you don't like. We've normalized this insanity, calling it adult responsibility, when it's actually voluntary imprisonment in a system designed to harvest your time until nothing remains. The antidote isn't time management apps or productivity hacks, it's the courage to audit your life with brutal honesty and eliminate everything that doesn't align with your deepest values. That includes relationships that drain you, obligations that deplete you, and digital distractions that numb you. Time wants to be respected, not managed, and it punishes those who treat it carelessly with the harshest sentence of all: regret. Your phone is a time vampire disguised as a productivity tool. The average person will spend 11 years of their life staring at that screen. Years that could have been spent building businesses, mastering skills, nurturing skimps, or creating art. Every notification is a tiny funeral for your focus. Every quick check a slippery slope into hours of lost time. The greatest luxury in the modern world isn't wealth. It's uninterrupted attention. The ability to focus for hours on meaningful work without digital interruption is the superpower that will separate the architects of the future from the casualties of the attention economy. There's a reason death is life's greatest motivator. Because nothing clarifies priorities like the awareness that your days are numbered. The wealthy delude themselves into thinking money can buy time, but all the private jets in the world can't reclaim a single wasted moment. The poor often believe they have nothing but time, not realizing it's the one asset that makes millionaires possible. Time doesn't discriminate. It reveals. Show me how someone spends their days and I'll show you their future. The person reading while others scroll will accumulate knowledge the crowd can't imagine. The entrepreneur working weekends while others party will build an empire the partiers will later envy. Time compounds in silence, rewarding those who invest it wisely with dividends the spendthrifts will never comprehend. We all get the same 24 hours, but not the same 24 hours. An hour spent learning a skill isn't equal to an hour spent watching reality TV. 60 minutes in the gym don't yield the same results as 60 minutes on the couch. The magic happens when you stop counting time and start making time count. When you realize that small daily disciplines, repeated consistently, create seismic results over years. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a decade of focused effort. The tortoise didn't beat the hare because he was faster, he won because he understood the true nature of the race. The clock is always ticking, but most live as if they're immortal, postponing dreams until some mythical someday that never comes. They'll travel when they retire, write that book when things slow down, pursue that passion when the timing's right. But life doesn't slow down, it speeds up. The days are long, but the decades are short. And the only right time is the present moment you're currently wasting. Procrastination isn't just delaying work, it's stealing from your future self, creating debt that can never be repaid. Every important thing you've ever accomplished happened because you finally stopped waiting for perfect conditions and started with the imperfect reality in front of you. Your calendar is a moral document. It reveals what you truly value, not what you claim to value. The person who says family comes first but works 80-hour weeks is lying to themselves. The aspiring artist who never creates is in love with the idea of art, not the work itself. We don't lack time, we lack clarity about what deserves our time. The solution isn't more hours in the day, but more courage in our choices. The willingness to say no to good opportunities so we can say yes to great ones, to disappoint others temporarily rather than disappoint ourselves permanently. Time doesn't ask permission, it passes regardless. The only question is whether you'll look back on years invested or years merely spent. Comfort is the silent killer of greatness, the warm quicksand that slowly suffocates ambition while whispering lies about safety and security. It wraps around you like a weighted blanket, making you feel protected while actually pinning you down to mediocrity. The brutal truth? Everything you want lives on the other side of discomfort. That promotion requires difficult conversations you've been avoiding. That business demands risks that keep you up at night. That relationship needs vulnerability that terrifies you. Growth isn't just found in discomfort, it's only found there. The moment you choose comfort over challenge is the moment you stop evolving and start decaying. Because in life you're either climbing or sliding, there's no neutral. The human brain is wired for efficiency, constantly seeking the path of least resistance to conserve energy. This survival mechanism served our ancestors well when calories were scarce and danger lurked everywhere, but in our modern world of abundance, this same wiring becomes our greatest obstacle. Your mind will always argue for the familiar, the easy, the predictable. Even when these very things are limiting your potential, it will manufacture convincing excuses about why you should wait, why now isn't the perfect time, why someone with your background, skills, resources couldn't possibly achieve what you're dreaming about. This isn't logic, it's your comfort addiction talking, rationalizing stagnation as wisdom. Look closely at anyone who's achieved extraordinary things, and you'll find a trail of discomfort deliberately pursued. The athlete pushing through one more rep when every muscle screams to stop. The entrepreneur making that terrifying pivot when the safe path would be easier. The artist shipping their work despite paralyzing fear of judgment. These people aren't immune to discomfort. They've simply developed a different relationship with it. They've learned to recognize that flutter of anxiety not as a stop sign, but as a trail marker pointing toward growth. While most people spend their lives running from anything that makes them uneasy, high achievers understand that discomfort is the price of admission to a life beyond limitations. Modern society has engineered comfort to an unprecedented degree. Temperature-controlled environments, on-demand entertainment, food delivery with a single tap, and it's making us spiritually and emotionally weak. We've confused convenience with progress, mistaking an easier life for a better one. But human beings thrive on challenge, on struggle, on being tested. Remove these elements and you don't get happiness, you get stagnation wrapped in luxury. The most depressed people aren't those facing hardships, but those insulated from all hardship, floating through life without anything to push against, without any resistance to develop their strength. Comfort doesn't satisfy, it numbs. Your comfort zone isn't static, it shrinks or expands based on what you regularly tolerate. Spend too long avoiding difficult things and your world becomes smaller, your tolerance for adversity weakens, your resilience atrophies. But consistently lean into discomfort, and something remarkable happens, your capacity grows. What terrified you last year becomes today's warm-up. What felt impossible 6 months ago is now routine. This is how ordinary people develop extraordinary capabilities, not through genetic gifts or lucky breaks, but through the daily discipline of choosing challenge over comfort. The magic happens in that sliver of space just beyond what feels easy, where growth is uncomfortable but not crushing, where you're stretched but not broken. The most dangerous form of comfort is mental, the stories we tell ourselves about why we can't, shouldn't, or won't. I'm not the kind of person who people like me don't. At my age, it's too late to. These aren't truths, but prison walls constructed by a mind desperate to avoid the vulnerability of growth. Comfortable thinking produces comfortable results. And if you're unhappy with your current reality, the first place to look is at the beliefs you've been too comfortable to question. Reinvention always begins with uncomfortable self-honesty, recognizing that the very mindset that got you here won't get you there. Physical comfort is overrated, but emotional comfort is over-worship. We've created an entire culture that prioritizes feeling good over being great, that pathologizes normal human struggles as disorders to be medicated away. The temporary sadness after a failure isn't depression, it's feedback. The anxiety before a big leap isn't a disorder, it's your body preparing for peak performance. The frustration with your progress isn't a sign to quit, it's proof you care. By constantly seeking emotional comfort, we've robbed ourselves of the necessary friction that forges resilience the very struggles that build the emotional muscle to handle life's inevitable challenges. Comfort is most dangerous when it disguises itself as wisdom. Be realistic sounds responsible but often masks fear. Don't rock the boat seems pragmatic but usually conceals cowardice. Know your place pretends to be humble, but is actually surrender. There's a difference between legitimate contentment and complacency masquerading as satisfaction. One comes from conscious choice, the other from unconscious habit. The former is peace, the latter is stagnation. Test yourself with this question. If you continue your current path with no changes, will you arrive at a place you genuinely want to be? If the answer isn't an enthusiastic yes, your comfort is costing you more than you realize. The paradox is that chasing comfort leads to the most uncomfortable outcome of all: regret. Looking back on a life half lived because you were too afraid to leave the shore. Wondering what might have been if you dared to tolerate more discomfort in the short term for greater fulfillment in the long term. The people who end up with the deepest regrets aren't those who failed spectacularly, but those who never tried meaningfully, who chose the comfort of certainty over the discomfort of possibility. Meanwhile, those who regularly embrace discomfort accumulate not just achievements but self-respect. The quiet pride that comes from knowing you didn't back down from your own potential. Discomfort is the currency of transformation, and the price never goes down. The longer you wait to pay it, the more expensive it becomes in missed opportunities and atrophied potential. Every day you choose comfort is another day your competition is out there getting stronger, your market is shifting, your window is narrowing. But here's the beautiful part: it's never too late to start. The moment you decide to trade comfort for growth, your life begins expanding in ways you can't yet imagine. That first difficult conversation, that long-delayed project, that terrifying leap, each act of courage stretches your capacity until what once seemed impossible becomes your new normal. The pain of discipline really does weigh ounces compared to the tons of regret. Legacy is the only true currency that outlasts our mortal existence, not the temporary paper chase of luxury cars and designer labels that lose their shine the moment the loan comes due. What good is a Rolex that tells time when you've wasted yours? What value does a mansion hold when the rooms echo with relationships you neglected to build? The paradox of modern life is that we trade irreplaceable hours chasing replaceable things, while the truly valuable, our impact, our relationships, our contributions, get relegated to someday. But someday isn't a day on the calendar. It's the graveyard where unwritten books, unlaunched businesses, and unspoken love letters get buried under the weight of procrastination and misplaced priorities. Look around at the culture we've created: an entire generation documenting their meals for strangers while their families starve for attention. People building social media empires but neglecting the real-life relationships that will hold their hand in the hospital bed. The obsession with appearing successful has eclipsed the substance of actually being significant. Your Instagram followers won't remember you in 50 years. But that kid you mentored might change the world because you showed up. That business you built with integrity might employ families for generations. That poem you were afraid to publish might save someone's life decades after you're gone. Legacy isn't about being remembered, it's about being woven so deeply into the fabric of human progress that your absence would leave a hole. The wealthy understand this truth too late, when they're sitting in empty mansions realizing no amount of money can buy back missed soccer games or resurrect neglected friendships. The poor often understand it too soon, possessing wisdom about what truly matters but lacking resources to act on it. But here's the radical equalizer: legacy building costs nothing but intention. The teacher who stays late to ignite a student's curiosity is investing in eternity. The neighbor who organizes community gardens is planting seeds that outlive them. The parent who breaks toxic cycles is altering family trees not yet born. These are the real billionaires, people who measure wealth and change lives rather than net worth statements. We've been brainwashed into believing legacy is for the elite, the Mozarts and Mandelas of history. But the quietest lives often cast the longest shadows. That nurse whose compassion becomes standard practice and award, that's legacy. The mechanic who trains disadvantaged kids in trade skills, that's legacy. The grandmother preserving family recipes and stories, that's legacy. The scale doesn't determine significance, the ripple effect does. A stone doesn't measure its impact by its size, but by the concentric circles it creates when dropped in water. Your legacy works the same way: small, consistent actions compounding across time long after you're gone. Material possessions follow the laws of depreciation, losing value the moment they're acquired. But legacy operates on opposite physics, appreciating with time, gaining value as it's passed between generations. An heirloom watch stops ticking eventually, but the values you instill in your children's children shape centuries. The irony: we spend our prime years chasing depreciating assets while neglecting the appreciating ones. We'll labor 60 hours a week for a corner office that someone else will lock you before the paint fades, but hesitate to invest 60 minutes mentoring someone who might carry our wisdom forward. The things that feel urgent rarely matter, and the things that matter rarely feel urgent until it's too late. Technology has distorted our legacy instincts, reducing impact to viral moments and likes rather than lasting change. We confuse visibility with importance, trending with relevance. But real legacy is often built in obscurity: the researcher toiling for decades on a cure, the teacher shaping minds one student at a time, the parent modeling integrity when no one's watching. These are the quiet architects of civilization, laying bricks they'll never see the final structure of. Their reward isn't fame, but knowing they've added to humanity's forward momentum, rather than just consuming from it. The most painful regrets at life's end are never about what was done, but what wasn't, the love not expressed, the talents not shared, the help not given. People don't lament not buying more stuff, they grieve not creating more meaning. This is why legacy thinking must start now, not when retirement hits or mortality whispers. Every day is a deposit in your legacy account. What are you contributing? The words you speak today might become someone's inner voice tomorrow. The standards you set now might become family traditions later. The business you build could outlive you by centuries if founded on values rather than valuation. Legacy isn't some distant concern, it's the cumulative effect of daily choices. That email you send with encouragement instead of criticism? Legacy. The extra 10 minutes listening to an aging parent's story? Legacy. The integrity to do right when no one's watching? Legacy. These microscopic moments aggregate into immortality. While society obsesses over quick wins and overnight success, the truly wise are playing a different game, planting trees under whose shade they'll never sit, building bridges they won't cross, writing chapters for stories that will continue long after their pen runs dry. The clock is ticking, but the good news? It's never too late to start building what matters. That strained relationship can still be mended. That book can still be written. That community initiative can still be launched. The only unacceptable option is continuing to trade what's permanent for what's perishable. Look around at your life, not at the possessions, but at the people you've influenced, the standards you've set, the values you've embodied. That's your real net worth. That's the only wealth you'll take with you when you go. Not in your pockets, but in the hearts and minds you've touched. The rest is just scenery. Look around you. This is not a rehearsal. This is your life unfolding in real time, every second slipping through your fingers like grains of sand. You are not born to merely exist, to punch clocks, to bow to fear, to shrink into the background while your dreams gather dust. You were born to roar, to build, to disrupt, to leave this world altered because you passed through it. But here's the brutal truth. No one is coming to hand you your destiny. No savior, no lottery ticket, no lucky break will magically lift you into the life you desire. The power, the undeniable, unshakable power has always been in your hands. The question is, what will you do with it? For too long, you've been sold lies that security is found in playing small, that comfort equals success, that fitting in is smarter than standing out. These are the chains that keep ordinary people trapped in ordinary lives. But you were never meant to be ordinary. That fire in your gut, that voice in your head whispering there's more, that's not coincidence. That's your calling. That's your destiny demanding to be claimed. And every day you ignore it, every excuse you make, every time you hit snooze on your potential, you're not just delaying success, you're betraying the very reason you were put on this earth. Let's be clear, the world doesn't need more followers. It needs leaders. It doesn't need more spectators, it needs warriors. People who refuse to settle, who stare fear in the face and move forward anyway, who understand that greatness isn't gifted, it's taken by force, by will, by relentless, unshakable determination. You have that power inside you right now, not tomorrow, not when the timing is perfect, not when you feel ready, right now. Think about the legacy you're building today. Are you proud of it? Or does the thought of looking back years from now fill you with dread, regret, heavy in your chest, wondering what if? What if you had taken that chance? What if you had spoken up? What if you had bet on yourself instead of waiting for permission? That version of you, the one who played it safe, who chose comfort over courage, will haunt you if you let fear win. But the version of you that rises, that fights, that refuses to back down, that's the version that changes everything. Not just for you, but for everyone watching. Because when you rise, you give others permission to do the same. This is your moment. Not next year, not when the economy is better. Not when you have more money, more time, more confidence. Now, today, the clock is ticking and every second you waste is a second you'll never get back. So what's it going to be? Will you continue to bow to doubt, to let excuses dictate your life, to watch from the sidelines as others live the life you secretly crave? Or will you stand up right here, right now and declare that enough is enough? That you are done with mediocrity, done with fear, done with letting life happen to you instead of through you. The world is waiting for your move. Your family is watching. Your future self is begging you to act. This is not just about you. It's about everyone who needs your light, your voice, your courage. The books you don't write will never inspire. The business you don't start will never employ. The love you don't express will never heal. You are not just a person. You are a force, a catalyst, a revolution waiting to happen. So rise like your life depends on it, because it does. Rise like the generations before you are counting on you, because they are. Rise like failure isn't an option, because it never was. The path won't be easy. There will be blood, sweat, and sleepless nights. There will be moments when quitting feels easier than continuing. But remember this, diamonds are formed under pressure. Steel is forged in fire. And legends are made in the moments when everyone else would have given up, but you kept going. This is your time, your battle, your destiny. The world has been waiting for someone like you, someone with your grit, your heart, your unstoppable will. But don't you dare keep it waiting any longer. The choice is yours. The power is yours. The future is yours. Now go take it.